Welcome to the Expansive Love Dialogues, Conversations to Expand Love. I'm so excited about this episode as it involves two special collaborators in my practice. Tash, who's been my practice manager for the last 5 years, and Alana, who's been a business collaborator for the last couple of years. We have a rich dialogue about what makes our partnership so special, how we stay connected to one another, and why what we produce is so special in the world around us. Alana and I in particular talked at length about Couples in Business, a program that we are getting off the ground this year to support entrepreneurial couples who are running a business together or running several businesses separately. Hope you enjoy and hope there's some insight that you can take away. Welcome to the Expansive Love Dialogues, Conversations to Expand Love. This is a special episode for me because it involves two partnerships that I hold dear to my heart. I've got Natasha Payne, who is my practice manager, and we've had a professional relationship for the last 5 years, and Alana Swain, who is currently a business collaborator. We're working on a project called Couples in Business. Both Tash and Alana are on this episode to celebrate our partnerships and some important connections in my life. So what I'd love to do is hand over to Alana in the first instance, who will really focus on my relationship with Tash over the last few years.
I'm curious about what your guys' meet cute story is. You know how everyone's got a meet cute? Here's the moment that you've collided with each other. Where does your meet cute start? And how did it then grow into this working relationship?
I knew in late 2020 that I wanted help in my practice. I wanted an executive assistant or a practice manager or a talented person to help me in building my business and my practice. And I set out in November of 2020. I posted an ad and I interviewed multiple people. I interviewed 10 or 11 people and I shortlisted 2 or 3. And Tash was one of the 2 or 3 I shortlisted. Now, the interesting thing is I made an offer to someone ahead of Tash who was a little older than Tash and was very capable in terms of the role, but life got in the way and she had to back out. So I made the offer, and about 3 weeks later, she actually phoned me up and said, I can't do it. There's too much going on in my life. And so I went back to my short list and went, who else was I really impressed with? And Tash was that person. And so I phoned Tash up and said, Tash, my circumstances have changed. I would love for you to consider the role. What do you think? And then she gracefully accepted, and it started from there. So that was probably late Jet. So what was your impression of me coming to you kind of quite long after the interviews?
I think the takeaway that I had when you came back to me and put forth an offer was it was quite serendipitous. It was like a happy accident nearly. And so with that being said, and then getting to know you through the interview process and just the authenticity that you embodied, that's how I took it, as that kind of happy accident of things fall into place when they're meant to fall into place. And it was learning about what you do and how you do it and why. It was something that I was very impressed with and knew I wanted to be able to support something like that in your type of mission, and especially around purpose and values and beliefs. When you came back with that offer, it was something that I was very excited to start it, and what that journey was to become. We've had an incredible time together and it's taken many twists and turns, but I think at every point it's always been that kind of like cadence of serendipity.
It felt meant to be to me. Like in retrospect, I don't know, like I liked the person who had the first offer, but our partnership is really solid and strong and has lasted for 5 years. And so that's been really special. And very early on, as I'm a strengths advocate. So when we did your profile, I looked at your profile against my profile, and particularly your doing themes were so much stronger than mine. And that compliment was exactly what I needed and was perfect. But like you said, purpose and values really resonated. Like we were aligned on those really early. So that helped.
That's so cool. And I love that. Like, I don't think there's enough spaces in life where there is serendipity anymore. And so I love that's what you felt and the words you used, Tash. And I've got belief in my top 5. So I'm like, yeah, I see you were meant to be. But it's interesting that you both picked up on it's almost like a sliding doors moment that allowed you to now be in this really constructive and supportive working relationship.
Yeah. And it's set the scene for what we've been through over the last 5 years, because I hired Tash 6 months before I lost Fiona to cancer. And the emotional burden of that, Tash has helped me keep the practice alive in lots of different ways, in lots of significant and different ways. And Tash and I, even beyond the loss of Fiona, Tash and I have been through ups and downs, both individually and together, that are meaningful and significant. And it has lasted. Like, it has just been strong enough to more than survive. Like, we are a really good partnership. And we make it work. And there's an element of forgiveness on both sides. Like, when I'm not at my best, she forgives me. When Tash is needing space, I forgive her. There's a generosity to our relationship that's really positive.
Yeah, I would say I like the word generosity there, and also a huge degree of understanding. We've both gone through significant life changes in the last, since we've been working together, and being able to have that stability between one another, but also that reassurance and understanding that whether it be personal or if it is something that operationally that needs to be changed very quickly, there's always that collaborative approach, but also that room to breathe as well. And so things like honesty and transparency and authenticity both are very important to both of us. And being able to communicate in a way that embodies, I guess, what that love is. When you look at the context of it, it's that I think has really helped on why it's gone the distance.
That's so true. And I think it sounds like you guys have found a very artful way and graceful way of bringing to life, because people say things like purpose and values and then they trip up all the time in the delivery of it. What do you think you guys bring to how you're working together that means that it's not just a set of values on the wall when it comes to that purpose alignment or that values alignment that makes it work in the real world?
I think for me, the purpose and values, one thing that I've always incredibly appreciated about Chris is the wearing one's heart on your sleeve. And there is this overwhelming honesty and kindness. And it does expose those fragilities in yourself and making it more of holding that space to be comfortable within what they are and what that vulnerability looks like. And I think by offering that as what that baseline is, it makes me a lot more forthcoming with my own vulnerabilities, because it is a safe space to be able to communicate and have that shared understanding. And so I think how we've embodied what our beliefs around purpose and values are, it starts at the core because it's been entwined since the very beginning. It's not something that we've stuck notes on a board and then shoehorn them in later. It's something that's been built out from the very get-go.
And I love that word belief. I've had a sense from the very beginning that we have had mutual belief in each other. I believe in who Tash is, not just outputs and productivity, but her as a person, right? Like, I believe in her. And I get that in return. She believes in me. She believes in the mission. But there's an unconditional level of support from Tash. Like, she has read and edited all of my books so far for sense check, for authenticity, for believability. Like, she's been there from the beginning and has contributed to not just how we deliver our services, but to the intellectual property that I am actually advocating publicly. So it's very much a team effort. And as Tash points out, I have a process that I coach clients on recruiting new staff. And I have 5 pillars that I encourage people to measure during the interview process, which is purpose. Why does this person exist and why will they make a difference to your business? Values. How do they behave? How are they going to show up every day? Skills and talent. What can they deliver? Team fit. Will they get along with everyone? And twinkle in the eye, which is the spark. Do they have a spark? Because if they don't have a spark, all the other 4 don't mean anything. And so from the very beginning, Tash met all of those criteria, like all of them. Because she ticked every box, it made the last 5 years really easy, like really easy.
Yeah, it's been something that's been quite enjoyable to watch both of us grow as well in what that place is and in how we work together. And I think over time it's just become better and better in the way in which we've worked together. And I love being able to read the books before they're released and truly try and understand and embody the message that you're putting out, Chris, because when it does come to being able to provide feedback, I want to be able to provide it with that context in mind. And I feel like it's a context I understand. So it's not something that seems so foreign that in providing feedback or support, it's a concept I understand because it's a concept I believe in. And so when it does come to creating different material or reading through the books or helping with the website, having Chris in my mind and in my ear on what that positioning looks like, it's something that I really enjoy because it's a mission I also believe in as well. So being able to embody that, it's what I really enjoy being able to support operationally what all that looks like. It's a lot of fun to be able to support in this way.
Nice. And it makes it a lot less lonely, right? Entrepreneur businesses can be really lonely. And to have you at the end of a phone, at the end of a Slack chat, just to go, I don't know what I'm doing. And be you to step in and go, you got this.
I think it's a really beautiful example. I think we have almost too much narrative around success or success in business that is rewards that lone wolf trailblazer, particularly in New Zealand, Australia. And what I just got the sense of between you two, just riffing just then, is I get the sense that, Tash, you allow this like wind beneath Chris's wings. And I believe that anyone who's successful has a team behind them helping that success. And sometimes that team's one person, but quite often that team's multifaceted. How does that sort of, like, when I reflect that back at you, what sort of lands or mislands with you two?
I think it's a two-way street, nearly, because there'll be an idea or a project or something that we want to achieve. And I get really excited by hearing what this scope looks like. And first, when we start talking about expansive love and what it could be and what it could mean for people, there's that initial excitement. And I know Chris has such an energy that's quite contagious. And so it's something that I really enjoyed being able to springboard with. The beauty of that is that Chris does have that belief in me. So when I sit back and think, okay, how can we achieve this operationally? There is also that belief coming back towards me on being able to make things happen in the background, kind of that duck on water. So everything looks fine on the outset, but then it's all the movement underneath the water. And having that, I guess, belief that going two ways, then it's really infectious towards one another, being able to support one another in two very different ways, but being able to put that both together to make something bigger than us, which is incredible to be able to do and have the creativity and flexibility and trial and error and how can we actually make this work. But it does come back to that belief. I believe in what Chris does, and Chris believes that I can make it happen. So between the two of us, what's next that we can do together?
And Alana, a really practical way that shows up in my relationship with Tash is quite early on, I made a conscious decision not to set deadlines. And it was one of those intuitive moments where it was like, do I need to set a date for this? And the answer was no, I absolutely did not, because Tash's responsibility and her ownership of stuff is just so high, and her productivity is 2 to 3 times faster than my expectation or awareness is. And so it was that mutual belief that I think our understanding of each other and each other's talents is so high that we do handoffs without even realizing we're doing handoffs. It just happens. And it's really interesting when you talk about the wind beneath your wings. I definitely feel that from both of you at different times, right? You are part of my support team, and I can only fly as high as you are willing to create the wind for. And I like to believe that in my relationship with clients and my relationship with friends and strategic partners and members of my team, that I am also providing that wind for everyone around me to be the best version of themselves, right? And so that's what's driving me. Tash and I have speculated about the scale of the project and what it could become in the next 10 years. And it is a movement, an organization, something extensive that will involve many more people. And so we want to create a culture and an atmosphere where we are all supporting each other to be the best version of ourselves. Tash does that for me, and I hope I do that for her.
And I think it's very funny when comparing it as Clifton strengths to one another, and you can quite literally see where that support shows up in a strengths-based way, also a belief way as well. When it comes to execution, like Chris said, that's basically my entire talent pool. It's execution themes. I will get things done, basically. But I love doing that. And so being able to hear these ideas and expand on them and see what that big picture is, and then rolling up the sleeves, metaphorical sleeves, and making things happen and making things work with that belief, it's an incredible feeling to know that the work that is happening, it matters, and it's bigger than myself, it's bigger than Chris, and it's an organization, it's a movement, like Chris said, and it's something I think without limits, which is really quite cool.
Really practical question is like you're 5 years into a very strengths focused working partnership. And I've known and used Gallup Strengths for a long time. And obviously, Chris, you've built an entire practice around that. Tash, did you know about Gallup Strengths coming into working with Christopher, or is it newly built memory for you?
No, so I was unfamiliar with Clifton strengths prior to working with Chris. If you had asked me what mine were, I probably could have given you some indication of what I'd known about myself from other types of testing and just the way that I end up working. I do remember, though, getting my report back and thinking, oh my God, he's going to think I'm a robot, because my relationship was all at the bottom and basically execution themes at the very top, and then all the relationship skills are way down the bottom for me. But Chris put it really, I remember we talked about this one time and he put it quite lovely, where I think for me, adaptability is really quite low, which when I reflect on it, I think I'm pretty good at being adaptable in my own way. And Chris said it so eloquently that yes, that adaptability as itself, as its own talent theme, it shows up differently for you, but you've got really high strategy, for instance. So that's where your adaptability actually shows up. You use your strategic themes to be adaptable. And, when there's a change in the plan, you have a really high achiever. Okay, the plan has changed. The tick box has changed. Let me just rearrange this in my own head. Okay, great. Now we're adaptable. And so understanding it in that kind of broader context, it's made me feel more confident in myself as well. But the beauty is that Chris also understands the way that I think. And so when we talk about projects that to be delivered or how to work together, it's really reassuring to have someone understand you on I guess that behavioral, but also decision-making level. And so I really appreciate and I'm constantly learning more as well about strengths. And I find it very interesting. And how people work together. It's incredible how the different strengths collide to create their own new superpowers.
I would say that in reflecting on some of the lower relationship building themes within Tash, one of her strengths is acts of service. Because she's such an executor, her doing themes always show up faster than I need them. Like she's doing stuff, she's anticipating what needs done really fast. And so that is how she expresses relationship building. It's an act of service to do something for someone else. And it's how she shows up for friends, and it's just how she delivers. Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever told you this, Chris, but acts of service is my top love language. So you're absolutely on the money with that one. When I've done the 5 love languages, acts of service is always the most important for me anyway.
I'm not surprised. What would be lovely, I think, given the nature of our 3 relationships, what would be lovely would be to switch to Tash exploring my partnership with Alana, what that looks like. It's a little younger. It's probably only, is it a year and a half to some ish, I think. We'll hand over to Tash and she can lead the next part of the conversation.
Amazing. Exciting stuff, because now I get to listen to all these wonderful answers. In thinking about the questions I wanted to ask you, one thing that I really wanted to start with was how does love actually show up between you both in the way that you work, and not necessarily just as an idea, but in the ways that you actually treat one another?
Good question.
I'll take us back to when we met. We met over LinkedIn, which was hilarious because it's a weird, unemotional social media platform. And this bowl of energy came at me through her posts and through how she shows up publicly. And there was just this intuition from both of us, I think. It went in both directions. It was an intuition of, oh my God, this is a really cool, special person. How do I stay stuck to someone like this? And yeah, I would say similar to the relationship with Tash, when I look at your talents as a business coach, as a professional, as a mom, as a human being, there's so much that is aligned from a purpose and values point of view between us. But there's also such a beautiful complementarity to it, right? Like you are good at some amazing stuff that I don't do that well, and vice versa. And so that mutual respect, that unconditional support, like wanting you to be successful is a big part of my motivation. Like me wanting Alana to be amazing, even more amazing than she already is. So that's how I would express the love in our relationship on a professional level is you are awesome. And I would love to see you be even more awesome if I can support that. And yeah, that you were instantly recognizable as a special person when we met.
It's your belief shining through. I think that I want to pause on how LinkedIn is this very grown up platform. And I think because we were traveling in ecosystems where we were brushing up, it would have been really easy for me to go, there's another business coach, it's competition. But instead I went, there's someone who looks like they do something through a very similar belief system that I do. I want to know that person more because that's going to be beneficial. And I distinctly remember getting off our first Zoom call and saying to my hubby at the end of the day, oh my God, I met the most interesting guy today. He's like me, but in Wellington. And it was just the best conversation I've had in a very long time. And that reminded me about how sometimes it's important to choose to have people in your business life, even if you don't know where they fit yet, just to go, this person sparks something within me that is worth spending more time with them. And then certainly all those beautiful things that you said so much more articulately than I can. Like since then, how our relationship has evolved, it's the same thing. Like it brings me no end of joy to be able to see all the ways that you're choosing to be successful. And like, I think back to that really brave moment where I was like, hey, Chris, we're running a networking event on Valentine's Day. You're the only person I can think of who can talk to that and not make it gimmicky as shit. Can you please come to Tauranga? And you were like, okay. You came and you were so brave. And I think it was the first time that you had spoken your story about fear to a crowd of that size. And you had the room in your hands, and there were several couples in the audience who were like wiping tears. And it was just such a beautiful moment. And anyone that can give that kind of honesty to the world, that's why it's such a joy working with you and why I love being around you so much, because that was just incredible to see and to experience.
And for me, the trust you had in me to fly up to Tauranga and stand in front of 100 professionals, many of whom were business owners, and pitch a Valentine's Day message, like heart on your sleeve, what does love mean to you? Like, it was brave for you. It was brave for me. It was brave for the audience. There was a lot of courage going around that day.
I think that's what that of love gives to people. If you're brave enough to talk about love in a work setting, good for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do you think that bravery and that spark is, I guess, what is it about that the way that you both relate that makes this work beyond just the capability? Is it that spark and is it that bravery, or is it something beyond that as well?
I would say there's very little masking. There's very little hiding between Alana and I. And we don't do it with our clients, and we don't do it with our friends, and we don't do it with our family. We are ourselves almost 100% of the time, if not 100% of the time. And so my keynote that day wouldn't have worked if I had put on a show. If it was a show, it would not have worked. I was 100% myself, totally vulnerable. I got teary. I created tears in the audience because it was so honest. And my ability to lean into that bravery was informed by Alana's faith in me. I knew she wanted me to succeed, but she didn't want me to put on a show. She wanted me to be honest and just tell it like it is, which is exactly what I did. And that's one of the things that I really love about Alana is she is 100% herself all of the time. And she shows up warts and all when appropriate and full of amazing positivity and energy and optimism. And it's all very genuine. That's the word I would use. There's a genuineness about her and about our relationship, which I like.
And I think when you give someone a permission slip not to pretend, and that belief is a two-way thing, which is what you guys were sharing about your working relationship too, right? I think that strips away so much invisible load that it does help you be more creative, be more focused, be more purposeful. It just helps you be more. And it's like it's, but also there's this feeling of just complete grounding to go, like in this moment, I know because we're talking about it and we're sifting through things and we're not sifting through a lens that's anything other than exactly what it needs to be right here.
And that goes to the heart of our project, Alana, around couples in business. At the center of our master model is unconditional love and support. If it doesn't start and end with unconditional love and support, what are you doing? And that foundation exists in my relationship with Tash, and it exists in my relationship with you. It exists in my relationship with my boys. It is the start, the end, and everything in between.
And I think from where I stand, like I say to people all the time in my practice, you've got to trust the intention and forgive the execution. And I don't think enough people do that. You start with this place of, if I truly believe you are my person in whichever setting, if you are my person and I have that complete unconditional love, let's work through the rest of the natural, just two humans rubbing along friction that exists. Because I think anyone's myth of perfect or like it's all going to be easy straight, it's just complete hogwash. It doesn't exist in the real world because we have ups and downs and we just say dumb things or we forget to do something. And if you can't come back to that place of unconditional love and support, it will fall over.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
I love that. And I guess, are there times where you misread one another? And if you do, how does that shift back into alignment with one another?
I don't feel we've had a lot of examples of that. It's because we're both really good communicators. There's rarely a gray area or something falls between the cracks or I misinterpret you or you misinterpret me. That doesn't happen very often. And I would say that, Tash, our relationship over 5 years, there have been more examples of that. And that's why I use some of the phrasing of forgiveness and grace for each other, right? Like we just find the grace. And I think it's Alana's phrase of trust the intention
Mm.
and be okay with a different execution. Like that definitely holds true with both of you in my relationship with you, right? Like we just find a way to get shit done. And there's been rarely a misunderstanding with either of you.
I wonder from where I sit, how much of that comes back to, because Chris, you and I share that belief in that top part of our profile. And so I think that there's always part of me that if I believe, and back to Tash, what you were saying at the very beginning around if the purpose is big enough, if the values are big enough and aligned enough, I have this, it comes out in the wash belief that, again, even if something was to come up, that I'd be like, okay, I believe in the big thing enough to sit in that, how should we work through it? Or like I'm working through an example with a client at the moment, and I'm like, when you have belief enough and you have trust enough, you can let the little examples go. But I don't think enough people have that in work settings or haven't experienced that in their professional lives, which is such a bloody shame. And also why we need to keep doing this and talking about it.
Yeah, 100%. And what I would say is that once you have, like I have a 1.5 to 2 year track record with you, Alana, and I have a 5-year track record with Tash, there's so many examples of going beyond. There's so many examples of awesome exchanges of energy and awesome collaborative outputs together that a couple of minor things that let you down, you go water under the bridge. Like it's just irrelevant. Because as you say, the purpose, the why, the expansive love, the fish philosophy, like all of it is so much bigger that it doesn't become challenging or difficult to forgive. It just, it's water under the bridge. You just let it ride.
I love that. I think, yeah, that runs very true between, I guess, how we interact as well. But between you both, I guess one final question that I have, which I find very interesting to hear both your perspectives, is what is something that you see in the other that you don't think is fully owned by them yet?
There is a star quality. And by star quality, bigger than national, like international star quality about Alana that might not be realized while her kids are the age that they are right now, because life is complicated and busy. But there is a sky's the limit potential in Alana's impact on the world. And she role models that every single day. The reach at the moment is within quite rational and reasonable constraints. But there's a presence and there's an energy about Alana that I could see on a global stage if she wanted it. That's how I see it.
I will definitely come back to you about that once I get more sleep under the hood. I think the first thing that comes to mind, but I do want to sit with this, and I might just send you both an email to be like, here's all the 16 things I forgot after the fact. I think one of the things that's really struck me, Chris, as we've been working on this couples and business project is the clip of your commercial match to the mission has been really cool to see. And I'm going to hold the belief in it until you hold it in yourself, because that's what you told me when we first started working together. And I'm just going to mirror that back, because I think it's not a binary. You can have a huge commercial success with love at the center of a business. And I think you are yet to believe it in yourselves. Like, I think your mind can comprehend it, but I don't think you've yet got the muscle memory. And that is my greatest hope, that couples and business is the first rung on many in terms of how this evolves and flows out into the world.
Yeah, I will take that belief. 100%. 100%. And you're right. My head has, only in the last 4 to 5 months has my head figured it out. But my body and my heart haven't engaged fully yet. Like, it's not congruent yet. But at least there's a brightness of future at the end of the tunnel, and I can feel it. I can see it and I can feel it, and it has massive possibility. And it was interesting on a conversations I had yesterday. I was quite nervous given the profile of the person I was speaking to. And by the end of the conversation, they were like, how can I help you? This is awesome. And so I think the whole category of couples in business and entrepreneurial couples is so underserved. It's a minefield of emotions and success and fulfillment and all of the stuff I care about. We care about, the three of us. So I think the possibility of building a regional or global program that has couples at the heart of it and has their success, not just their financial success, but their life success at the heart of the journey with us, is very real. I can see it. I can touch it.
Yay.
Excellent.
Imagine what's going to happen when everything comes online and you're like standing there and you're like, oh, it's all good. It's all plugged in. Let's go. Well, me and Tasha, hang on. Just back over here. Come back here with your ideas.
Well, given where I was 5 years ago, given that's when I lost Fiona, like, I've changed a lot in 5 years. I'm a very different person, and I have my moments of fragility, but I'm stronger than I ever was. And I think what's changed in the last year is I've become more hopeful. For 3 or 4 years, I didn't have a lot of hope. I was living day to day. I was feeding my boys. I was surviving. And I did some really good, interesting projects along the way. But that brightness of future and that hope of what could be, I'm not sure how strong that was. So it feels quite different now, which is a relief, I have to say. It's a relief.
I think that there's something in that lived experience that, regardless of the life curveball, we can all relate to a chapter in our either professional or personal lives where we lost hope. And I think that's a really good example of why sometimes you've got to surround yourself with the hope until you're ready to go again. Hey, can I load my team, my support system up? Because none of us can, like, I don't think any of us can believe 100% of the time and 100% of our ideas.
Let's wrap this up with my final 3 questions. So the first one is, what's your favorite love story?
I can go first. One of my favorite love stories is A Portrait of a Lady on Fire. It's a cinematic masterpiece, but it's not a romance in the sense of a traditional notebook type of romance, but it's very much love without distortion or ownership, or it exists even in silence. And a lot of the film is not spoken. Like there's a whole lot of silence, but every silence that there is so unbelievably intentional and careful, and it holds its weight as its own despite there being no words. There's no power imbalance. It builds everything through what that attention is, and it's very delicate in that way, but also incredibly powerful.
Nice. I love it.
My favorite love story is my grandparents' love story because they were my most tangible lived experience of people who, I think when grandma died, they were probably just past their 60th wedding anniversary, which is no mean feat to find and cohabit and have 4 children with someone else. But what they never lost was respect for the other and their humor. And I remember grandma really early on saying to me, a lot of other things will come and go in a relationship, but you've got to choose someone who makes you laugh. And her wisdom to have been born probably 100 years ago, plus or minus a couple of years, to have had that courage and wisdom is quite remarkable, I think, for that generation. And then for my granddad to have met that with all those scripts about what roles and relationships look like and still have complete respect for her. And yeah, just how they were with one another. Some of my fondest memories is just hanging out with them in their living room, just watching how they interacted. And it really showed me that love's in all the micro actions. It's all the things that you choose to do day in and day out for one another. It's not the big grandiose things. It's not what Disney movies are built on. It's really sometimes quite boring. And I think that probably, especially for the chapter in life, like my life's so boring with young children. Like, it's beautiful. But I think that's probably like the greatest story I could be inspired by, to then pass that on to my children and have those ripples.
One of my favorite love stories is a movie called One Day. And I love it because it was one of Fiona's favorite movies, and we used to watch it together. We loved it because it was part of the movie is set in the university campus of Edinburgh, which is where Fiona and I fell in love. And it tells the story of a couple over the course of 20 years where they only actually film one day of the year for 20 years. And so they film it on the same day, July 15th, throughout their history. And they are friends and they are connected and they eventually have a relationship. It is also poignant because she dies in the movie and he falls apart and then finds a way to recover. So it has lots of personal meaning for me as well. So that's one of my favorite love stories. How do you define love? Easy question.
I don't know that you can define love with words, because otherwise, what are poets doing? They'd run out. They'd be like, "Oh, that guy got it." And I think to me, love is you feel it. It's within you, and it's stacked with things like belief. It's more than it's that 1+1 is 2. It's the feeling that knowing that your world is a better place and the world for knowing that person, and that the world is a better place for you knowing one another, I think.
I like
love
it.
that. I
That's
think
nice.
they're quite more in that sense of, I guess, showing up for exactly who you are and that being accepted unconditionally, and someone who meets you fully at that depth, requiring you to change or shrink or perform, or where you can feel that sense of calm and clear and certainty rather than having to negotiate feelings. For me, it's definitely showing up in a way that's most authentic to yourself and being received in that exact same way, that exact same authenticity.
Nice. I like that as well. Now, my definition is heavily informed by the journey I had with Fiona. And so my definition of love is caring for someone so much that it hurts. And it will probably hold that definition for a while. I may grow out of it, but for right now, that's the way I define love. And how do both of you increase the amount of love in your life?
I think for me, something that I'm trying to do is increase the amount of love I show for myself in order to then be able to show up for others more and to love others more. Because I really do think that you need to have that foundation of understanding what that unconditional love means to yourself, what your definition of love means to yourself, in order to then be able to advocate for what that is in that belief and how you interact with others. So for me, that's something I've been doing quite a lot of work with myself in the last year or so, is really coming back to the root of my own belief and the love that I show for myself and how I'm going to show up for me and how I can be kind to myself as well. And then that has made my relationships with others not far easier, but being able to communicate and being able to show up for people in ways that they need when they need, because I'm already coming from a place of foundation for myself.
Yeah, nice.
I think mine at the moment is around stacking love in ways that mightn't be so obvious. And part of that is because of what I'm going through with dad at the moment. And so when you have a parent going through dementia's a dick, we can all agree. There's so much love there, but it's in that zone of it's love that hurts because it's so raw. And so I'm adding in as much of the like, hold me, catch me, make me laugh, make the world brighter love that my friends or like being really present with my children provides, and like really leaning into my mindfulness practices because that is lighter love. It is not less love. It's just lighter love. And that's helping me experience like that sphere of love in a slightly more balanced way. Cause otherwise I think I would get swept away in the weight of the other stuff.
And I've always known this, but I've realized more so recently. I love in connection. I love in collaboration. There's a difference, and Tash, this may ring true for you. There's a difference between us exchanging a Slack message on a morning versus showing up and being on video with each other and having presence. And my one-on-ones with you, Alana, I walk away with more energy, more enthusiasm, more hope, more positivity. And I've had lots of really great random connections. Some, it's like on Friday last week, I met two people that I hadn't met, or sorry, one person that I hadn't met at all. And we hit it off. We hit it off completely. And I was like, oh my God, this is why I'm on the planet. So it's the feeling of connection that I really appreciate and really hold dear. And a day when I have no appointments is about 80% lower than it should be for me, if that makes sense. Can I thank both Alana and Tash for being here? I really appreciate your time and your partnership. You're both really special people to me, and I'm really grateful that we were able to record an episode of the Expansive Love Dialogues. conversations to expand love. And I hope that our listeners had the chance to draw something valuable out of this conversation, and really just grateful to you and thank you so much.
Thank you. This was amazing.
Thanks so much for coordinating this, Chris.
It was wonderful to engage with them on so many levels about what makes our partnership special and why we care so much about each other in various ways. I was particularly struck at how similar I felt about both of them. They have slightly different roles in their relationship to me and my practice, but they are both significant in different ways. And what's been remarkable, I think, to reflect on is the stability of my relationship with Tash over the course of 5 years, and how we've managed to navigate some pretty challenging times, both personally and professionally, over that time. I hope this episode has provided you with some insight and some thoughtful ideas for how to navigate professional relationships, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.